Hi,
Hey,
I'm Julia,
and I'm Amanda,
and this is Much Needed Advice.
a podcast for people who want to know what to do. Julia's concerned that there's no potato chip emoji or bag of chips.
I'd searched chip and potato chip.
Yeah, there's nothing else that it could be called.
I really don't want to look through all of them just
There
to
are
not find it.
There are a lot of emojis that are missing from the emoji bank and a lot that are in there that I've never used, will never use, don't even know what it is. Like, you know that like red mask?
The scary like demon thing.
Yeah, with like a very long nose.
Uh-huh.
Why would people ever use that? Why do we need that?
I don't know.
There are also like a shocking number of vehicles and modes of transportation.
Shocking.
I wouldn't even use any of them ever except for a plane. Like, in what situation would you send a bus as an emoji?
That's very elitist.
Who takes buses anywhere?
Why
aren't you flying your private jet to go 1 hour north?
So I have an update. The red guy with the elongated nose is called Goblin.
So he's a goblin. People
Who's
are talking? Like, what research did they do to figure out which emojis to create?
I don't know, because I feel like potato chips have to come up way more than goblins. There's another red guy, but he's not kind of in profile. He's got like fuzzy around his red face, and he is ogre. Everyone knows ogres are green.
They look like Shrek.
Hello.
We might have to suggest some emojis to the emoji committee. To big emoji.
To big emoji. The council, emoji council.
The council representing big emoji.
Yeah, the board of big emoji, or the chairman of big emoji.
I mean, if we can talk directly to the chairman of the board, that would probably be the fastest way to get things done.
I guess big emoji would be the whole emoji industry, right? Like big pharma.
And is that run by one guy? Is it like the wizard behind the curtain that's putting it all on? I don't know. I never got a choice when I signed up for emojis of which company I wanted to get my emojis from.
I feel like back in the day, there were multiple emoji apps before Apple was like, yeah, emojis, they're a thing.
Yeah.
Now we have them all. They're ours.
So do you think it's Apple? It's not Apple, though.
Is Apple big emoji? We're going to have to ask our friend who just got a job at Apple.
Apple's probably behind everything.
First day on the job, you need to find out who's in charge of emojis.
But she's been sworn to marketing secrecy. She's not allowed to spill anything.
Damn.
I know. We've been shut out.
Maybe she can run our suggestions up the flagpole. The chain. The ladder.
We could just check in with her from time to time and ask her if her bosses want our advice, because we have a lot of it.
Yeah, maybe we'll just have a segment on our podcast and hope Mr. Big Emoji will listen. Every episode. We will give advice about one emoji that's missing.
I think the baguette emoji is missing.
There is a baguette emoji.
Shut the fuck up.
Girl. It's like another version of the eggplant. You can use it as a dick. It's more realistic.
It's more realistic. That's a good point.
One time Amanda tried to tell me that we've had every single letter of generation and now we're just at the end of the alphabet. I was like, really? Who's Gen L? Who's Gen G?
I was like, well, Julia, don't expect me to know things like that.
You're like, just count backwards every 10 to 20 years until you get to that letter. It's not true.
Who comes up with the generations? And
I don't know.
what dates are included?
It's a great question. Who's
It's
big generation?
Who's the chair? I'd like to speak to the chairman of the board of Big Generation.
Yeah. Who is big generation? We all just believe them. We're like, yep, that's right. That's the generation. This is like the Wizard of Oz. If you are the chairman of Big Generation, please DM us.
We need to know why we started at Y. Gen Y. Wait. Gen X. We started at X. It went boomers, and then it was Gen X. And then we are technically Gen Y, but our nickname is millennial. And then Gen Z is next. And then there is going to be a Gen A. Someone has already labeled them.
I love you, Gen A. Okay, then maybe we will start going from the top of the alphabet.
Yeah.
Maybe it was just a premonition you had, not just a lie.
It was just fun to say at the time.
Yeah.
But I didn't follow it up with a just kidding, which is also kind of fun because you kind of wonder, are they going to figure it out? Why don't we just tell the audience why we're doing this podcast and what they can expect?
We're just fascinated by human behavior and psychology and philosophy.
Yeah.
And so talking about these conundrums is really fun and interesting for us. And it's important to us that we put something out that's productive in the world. So if we can help you, we dig that.
And if we can't answer your question well, we will find someone who can. We have a lot of experts who are willing to come on the podcast and share their knowledge.
Yeah. So you can ask us any general questions, but say you have a question about
Wine.
I'm
don't know
not the
anything
person.
about wine.
Yeah. We don't know martinis. Yeah. But wine.
Ooh, we are martini experts.
We did an experiment once with different martini ratios. Marties. But anyway, wine, we don't know anything about wine. So we're going to bring a wine expert on and you can ask him anything. What bottle of wine should I bring to my boss's Christmas party?
Mm-hmm.
How
do I go to a wine tasting without looking like an idiot?
Yeah.
I'm being pretentious again. You'd be such an idiot if you didn't know what you were doing at a wine tasting.
Idiot.
You probably took a bus here.
Or like, I don't know anything about wine, but I want to get into wine. What are a few whites and a few reds that could really teach me some things?
Yeah.
Something like that. You know.
We also have a couple of couples counselors / psychologists.
Yes, we expect a lot of relationship questions. But you can also ask us about anything else.
Mm-hmm. How to juice a lemon.
For example.
What would we not be able to give advice on at all, even with our panel of experts?
Medical inquiries. We will not answer medical questions or give medical advice because we are not medical professionals.
I know if you've seen our Instagram, your first thought is probably, are these girls doctors?
What's this thing growing out of my toe? I don't fucking know, girl. Go to the doctor.
Yeah, and we don't want images either.
Don't send us any images of growths.
God. Or anything that your body has produced.
Yeah, but you can send us like pictures of 2 different outfits and say, what should I wear on this first date? Or what should I wear for a job interview that I have next week? We'd be happy to answer that question.
Yeah.
We could open things up to our general audience on Instagram with polls. So if you say like, which shoes should I wear with this outfit? We can post both of your shoes and put a poll up and everybody can give their advice. And that might be fun.
You guys would be great at advice too.
Yeah.
With our combined life experience of the whole community, we can probably all help each other out quite a bit.
This is starting to sound like a cult.
But there's 2 of us as a cult leader instead of 1.
So therefore it's not a cult?
I think that does not meet cult criteria.
Well, what about that cult Osho? His cult.
It was just Osho.
He had Sheila. Shayla. He had a right-hand woman.
He had a Sheila or a woman named Sheila?
He had a Shayla named Sheila. And she was...
I've never heard of her.
You gotta watch the doc. Wild Wild Country is what it's called. It's on Netflix.
Okay.
And then you'll learn all about Sheila. And then maybe we do qualify as a cult.
Dear M&A, I'm 24 years old and I'm not making much money right now, but I want to travel. Is it the responsible decision to take a couple vacations so that I can travel around Europe because I've never been? Or should I wait, focus on what I'm doing here, cement my career path, and travel later, like when I'm in my 30s, when I have more money and more shit figured out? What do I do?
Hi, Savannah.
Oh yeah, her name's Savannah.
Travel. Go.
Do it.
Go. See
now.
the world. Yes. Never wait for a perfect time or a better time.
There's no perfect time.
There's no better time.
There's probably only a worse time other than this time.
Absolutely. There's no better time than your 20s to just go do it. You're unattached in so many ways you don't even realize.
Yeah, you have a lot of expensive things coming up ahead of you. So 2 things you want to do now is, number 1, get used to doing big, impactful things on the cheap.
Yes.
Like traveling, so that one day down the road, when you want to buy a house, you'll kind of know how to be scrappy about it. And also, you're going to want to take advantage of having a lot of flexibility of where you spend, how you spend your money, and where you go.
Yeah. And it can definitely be done on the cheap. And anywhere you could want to go. Some places are obviously more expensive than others, but figure out your budget and you can make it happen. And it's so fun, actually, to be scrappy and to do things on the cheap, especially when you go with friends.
When I was in my mid-20s, I had a friend group of 20 people. It was like one friend group.
That scares me. Continue.
I know, even saying it, I'm like, I can't believe that happened. But they never interacted with my other friends, which is interesting. Like, you didn't orbit with them ever.
I don't even know who you're talking about.
Yeah, exactly. But what we would do, this group, is rent an Airbnb in a random place once a year. And we would all go split everything. We would all only spend $100 total.
Wow.
On the entire trip. And that included getting there, getting back. It included the Airbnb itself. It included all of the food and alcohol for the entire weekend. And we had a weekend away and had a blast and made so many memories that way.
It's super fun. I love those big trips where, like a couple people are on breakfast duty and they get up and make 24 eggs and a million pieces of bacon, and everybody's kind of rolling out of bed and, making their way to the kitchen.
So you may want to do more than just a weekend. You may want to go somewhere like Napa, which is what I did one time with a friend who was very good at sticking to a budget. And we really wanted to go to Bottle Rock. This was, again, mid-20s. We wanted to go to Bottle Rock, which is a music festival up there. And we didn't have tickets. We had barely any money to spend. But we figured it out by borrowing my friend's parents' van, throwing a mattress in the back, and choosing to live out of it for the whole long weekend. We drove there. We scalped tickets to... Am I allowed to say that? Is that illegal? We got tickets from a gentleman on the street. And we were able to get him down to like $60 each.
Wow.
For the whole weekend festival. So we spent that. And then the rest of our money we spent on wine, on going wine tasting. So we picked like 3 wineries that we wanted to check out. We went to a winery and saw that they had two options for, it was a winery called Quixote. If you're ever in Napa, definitely go there. Very unique place. And they had an option for a bottle that we could buy because we loved the wine there. It was our favorite. A bottle that we could buy that was 5 years old and one that was 10 years old. And the wine that was aged 10 years was double the price of the wine that was aged 5 years. Mm-hmm. So we thought, why don't we buy the one that's been aged 5 years and just hold on to it for another 5 years?
Yeah, I think that's how wine works.
We'll find out when we get Azad on the podcast, who's our resident sommelier.
Or when one of you DMs us and is like, you dumbass, that's not how wine works.
But it gave us something to hold on to, a souvenir from that experience. And we did. I saved it in my apartment in a non-climate controlled cabinet.
And you moved with it, I'm sure, multiple
I even
times.
moved multiple times with this bottle of wine, but I held on to it so at that 10-year mark, we could celebrate and drink it together. And we did it for my friend's 30th birthday. There's one trip that we did together.
Our event was at San Francisco Pride, and Amanda was so nice. She flew up just to help us and support us, which is just like the nicest thing ever. I love friends. That's such a cool friend thing to do, because we also really needed
acts of
her
service,
help.
folks.
Yeah, we had a limited budget. We did get paid to put on the event, but it was a small amount. So we found this super random hotel that was just awful looking on the inside.
They had one hell of a vending machine, though.
True.
What did I get from the vending machine?
Those chips.
Okay. Julia's
I'm pointing to a
chip
bag of
obsessed. Good thing we put the bag of chips on a different table that you can no longer reach.
That's why I'm into those chips.
Stop.
It was because during that event in San Francisco, Yehuda, who was my partner on this event, got those chips out of the vending machine, and I was like, these are fucking good. Why don't I ever eat these? And now here I am years later eating them.
There was some joke we had though with one of the items in the vending machine that we laughed about for hours. And I'm trying to remember what that was. You remember what I'm talking about?
Yeah, but no. I remember the laughing, but I don't remember the why.
The laughing is what matters. You remember how they made you feel.
Yeah. So anyway, we were in this tiny, really weirdly decorated room it was a double, 2 twin beds. And then Amanda arrived. And so we said, do we have a rollaway bed or something? And they brought this little cot thing and pulled it in between the 2 beds.
But it was like a very large cot. It was like a very wide cot.
But very low. So it was like 1.5 feet lower than our beds.
But it fit like bed to bed. It like squeezed, and that was the only place it would go, was in between the other 2.
Yeah. So it was like we were like the parents in Willy Wonka.
Yeah.
We were all just laying in beds next to each other, just beds on beds on beds.
Or it was like that Rihanna video where she's in a California, I think her music video for California King Bed, something like that, where the video shows her being in an endlessly long bed. Or just like Drake's actual bed. And speaking of that, I think that in order to do it on the cheap, another thing that you could do that we've done is working while you're traveling. Like work for your room and board. That's another great way to meet local people and get to know the culture better and have a more realistic experience in another country. I, at one point, was a working poet.
That is the coolest thing I've ever heard in my life.
I don't know if I've ever said those words out loud, but yeah, that's what it was.
So romantic.
I was a working poet living in Paris.
Can you believe?
And I had no money.
This could be you, Savannah.
And I got an apartment in Paris for a month and split it with 4 other girls. It was like a good sized apartment. I had my own room in the apartment. It was like 4 bedrooms. The water never came out of the shower. So it had some issues, but it was fun. You never know. Once you go abroad, you might want to extend your stay. A job might pop up, a new passion. and you could choose to take your life in a whole new direction. And that's why it's also important to do it now while you're young, because you can take your life in any direction right now.
If you've only been in one place, there are a limited number of options that you perceive to be available to you. But if you travel and you see this other person lives this kind of life that I never even thought of,
Yeah.
I want to be like that, or I don't want to be like that.
Mm-hmm.
Or, you know, this country has really amazing, not this country, but a country you're in has really amazing healthcare. How do I get to this country legally?
Is there a country where that exists?
Yes, it's not here, but there are countries with great healthcare. But there's just so many things that you can find. I know lots of people who've met significant others while traveling, and whether they ended up staying with them or breaking up, it's just all becomes a part of your story. And the bigger you can make your life, just the more experiences you can have, the more you grow as a person. I think there's also something to be said for getting away from home. Gives you so much better perspective on your home. You'll either appreciate it more or you'll appreciate it less, I think. If you go travel Europe and then come back home and it's like, there's no place like home, then you're in a good spot. You can appreciate it more. You can say, I love the tree outside my window and how the leaves change, or, you know, it kind of romanticizes your own life. In the same way, when you're apart from your significant other, you kind of come back with heart eyes because you missed them. Or you could come home and go, you know what? I don't know if I love this city that I live in. Maybe I should try somewhere else.
Yeah. It can open your eyes to where you've been stuck.
Mm-hmm.
And in what ways you're stuck.
There's so many unconventional opportunities for travel. You can apply for some type of a scholarship, or you can be in some kind of educational program. You could get a fellowship somewhere if you're, say, a writer or an artist.
Exactly.
Seek those opportunities out, because a lot of times they will be less expensive ways to travel, or you'll get a stipend, or you'll get room and board.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think that's really great advice, is to always be on the lookout for things that you can apply to and just apply.
Mm-hmm. And through that too, you're going to meet a lot of people who have a similar skill set as you, who are doing the kinds of things you like to do. And that's a great way to make lifelong friends. One way that I traveled once was for volunteering. And I went to Greece and worked in the refugee camps in Athens. It was something that I had heard about through a research project that I did. And I thought the program sounded like an amazing way to travel, get to stay at someone's house, not have to pay for that, only really have to pay for food, and also get to see what was going on over there.
Yeah.
What's going on over here, guys?
It's so meaningful to do that too. I've done similar trips in Indonesia, where I worked in malaria clinics when I was a teenager. And I don't know, there's something, it's kind of changed the way that I travel now, where I really try to get somewhat immersed in the culture that I'm in versus kind of just being on vacation and staying at a hotel. And
yeah, it's staying at a 5-star resort is overrated anyway.
I agree. But yeah, there's just really cool ways that you can get out of your city or your country and learn about other people, learn about other cultures and other places. There's so many creative ways that you can do that, especially at your age. So whether it's a scholarship, a fellowship, a volunteer opportunity, or just you and a friend backpacking through Europe, we say go for it.
Yeah. You got 2 go for it's from us.
Yeah.
And I think one thing you were saying earlier, Julia, is not everything should be for some future that we hope to have. You got to also be living in the present.
Yeah. And I can fall into this trap, I will say. I can be very cautious and future oriented and want to save all my money and squirrel it away for a rainy day. But the future is not promised, not to get dark, but it's not. You could get hit by a bus tomorrow or next week, and then you just never went to Europe because you were like, well, maybe I need to save money for a rainy day.
You wouldn't want to be the one reason for the bus emoji.
Exactly. Yeah. So, living in the present is such an important lesson that I continue to learn as I get older. You don't want to live in the past. You don't want to dwell on bad things that happened or times that you thought were better. And you don't want to live in the future where it's all hope and or worry about what could happen or what might happen or what you need to do to try to control some future that you want to have. You just got to live in the present, man.
Mm-hmm.
Easier said than done, but it just makes life so much better.
And you're focusing on what's going to be all of your building blocks for your future.
Mm-hmm.
That's all you can do. So that's what we think you should do. What do you think? Rate, review, and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.
Do you need advice? DM us on Instagram at much.needed.advice or email us at muchneededadvicepod@gmail.com. Bye. How do we become one voice?